Hello everyone, welcome to AI Geo Navigators Podcast series. I'm your host Ali Khan. Today we have Dr. Yasar Ayaz, Chairman of Pakistan NCAI. Let's get started.
Thank you.
You had an incredible journey in AI and robotics from academia to leading National University of Science and Technology's AI department. To start us off, could you please tell us about your journey, what you did in AI and robotics in Pakistan?
I have always been enthusiastic in working, in the most, we could say, emerging technologies out in the world. And robotics in AI has been my passion ever since, I started venturing into technology. I remember that my undergrad was also in the field of mechatronics, and I liked computer programming as a hobby. Right. So my first venture into AI was a natural culmination of the line of direction of work that I was exploring. And until that time, I hadn't studied AI as a formal course. So what I essentially did is that, I wanted computers to play games against me. Right.
Nice.
And I was fascinated by computer games, how they work, how they perceive agents, which are, when the human is playing with the game, how do they respond to the human? For example, when you're, working on a card game, does the opponent in the card game, the computer, does it remember what cards you've played in the past? What information that entails? If you've played a certain card in a certain situation, what does it lead to? Like what is the interpreted out of that in terms of what cards you hold or you don't hold? So my first venturing into an AI application that I developed was the Black Queen game, which is also called Microsoft Hearts in Microsoft Windows right now, which I developed from scratch just from introspection. I hadn't studied AI formally until that time, but I drew what I thought would be the behavior of the agent in form of a flowchart, and I implemented it. And from that time onwards, I was, making one algorithm or the other. My first attempt into distributed computer programming, for example, when you distribute information across various computers and get information, which is the modern concept of today's supercomputer. That was also in my undergrad years, around my third or fourth semester.
Nice.
Right. So even before that, when I was in school, I actually attempted my first research paper when I was in ninth grade, which I sent to the University of Manchester. The editor was from the University of Manchester, General of Fluid Mechanics, for review at that time, right? I was in ninth grade at that time. So, following up on that, I was always enthusiastic about exploring the newest technologies out there in the world. And, these days, AI is the cutting edge. So I ventured into AI and robotics completely because of my passion. Did my PhD, in artificial intelligence and robotics from Japan. I was working on humanoid robots, full life-size robots, walking around, interacting with the human environments and stuff. And I came back in 2009 to Pakistan. Upon arriving back in Pakistan, I realized that we need dedicated departments of AI and robotics in the country where people can formally learn about these things, and they should have facilities where they train, in artificial intelligence and robotics, and then, they hone their skills, and Pakistan goes forward in this direction. So it was in 2010 that we actually launched the first department of robotics and AI at NUST, which was the only department with the name of AI in the department's name and offering degrees in that for almost 10 years, until in 2020, to the best of my knowledge, the next degree in AI was started by FAST. So for almost a decade, we were the only ones carrying that flag, right? So I think that is a foresight, but it comes with its own challenges, because when you are on the cutting edge or the leading edge of technology, a lot of people think that the sort of stuff you are developing is not required by the country at that time. So you have to convince the policymakers, you have to convince, the industry and a lot of other people to venture into those fields and gradually develop in that. So some of the projects that I did along the way, for example, the AI Robotics World Cup, the RoboCup competition, our team was the first one to qualify for the highest league, the Standard Platform League of the International Robotics World Cup. Right. And when we did the competition is 5 robots on one side, 5 robots on the other side, working on edge AI, detecting where the ball is, where the goal is, each robot doing it independently, figuring out where your players are, where the opponent players are, making decisions about whether to pass the ball, whether to, shoot the ball towards the goal, and also executing these things by the physical motion of the humanoid robots. So we had a team of these humanoids, which actually qualified in the topmost league of the Robotics World Cup, which is the Standard Platform League. And it was all over the news for several years. Until 2020, we were doing that. And finally, with the National Center of AI, and there are a number of other innovations that we did as well. So a number of projects. I don't know how many you want me to describe.
No.
So this is one of them. So we worked with a foreign company called Saito Kobo and Sakura Wheelchair Project, which is based in Tokyo, to develop an automated wheelchair which can drive around by the human brain signals, by the movement of the human eyeball, by a remote mobile phone based control and stuff. So a number of projects other than this also, cybernetics and bionics, human robot interaction, mobile robotics, humanoids, legged systems, human augmentation. We did several works, prosthetics, bionics, wearable robotics. We did all of that until I moved to the National Center of Artificial Intelligence, which was inaugurated in 2018. And until 2020, I was heading the department simultaneously. So in the National Center of AI, we were faced with an entirely new challenge, which is that now we had to develop systems, of course, from research, from ground up from research, but not just till the level that you verify and, develop the MVP and you showcase it to the industry or something, but you have to take it all the way to deployment in field, right? So there are several success stories we have in that, like the safe city systems we've implemented across various cities in Pakistan. They're running Lahore, Kasur, Kalasha, Kaku, Bardan, and more coming up. Then there is, complete digital transformation of these systems behind the scenes, not just the algorithm that has been developed, but the digital transformation from complete black box to complete indigenous solutions. Then there is, for example, solutions that we are working on for NAB, for instance, the systems we've developed for the army for training, for instance, where, for the counterterrorism, how they have to, take on this menace, or the tactical training, for example, and a number of other solutions that we've developed for Pakistan. So overall, we've developed more than 200 different product prototypes at some level. Few of them have gone into the mainstream market and become well known as products. I think some of them might be familiar to you as well. Yes. So this is why we are actually, pushing Pakistan. The agenda is that, the world is very fast becoming polarized in artificial intelligence, where the Gen AI and the compute availability is quickly shifting the focus of the world to some countries, which will, retain dominance unless we develop a place in the ecosystem. Right? We also do develop a specialization on which they have dependence as well. Right? So that's the idea in which we could, invest our human resource, our economics, and hope to reap some part of the funding that is expected to be generated from AI by the year 2030, and this is well reported.
That's an inspirational story for the young guys like me who are just starting their career in AI. So what we do at AI Geo Navigators, we are trying to bring artificial intelligence in climate technology. It will be an honor if you share your views. What if we are able to implement that, or we need some kind of enhancement for that?
I think that climate change is one of the biggest challenges that the world is faced with right now. And a lot of people are worried about technology taking over or something, but a bigger danger is lurking in terms of climate change and the climate challenge which we are faced with around the world right now. I think that, first of all, even to make the correct estimates as to how climate is going to affect the world, we need a lot of technologies based on artificial intelligence just to even estimate or predict what's going to happen so that we could take countermeasures. Then, as you were just mentioning before the interview, that there are digital twin projects already underway that people are taking on. And this kind of projects need global input from all entities, including entities like AI Geo Navigators, NCAI, and others. So this climate change is a battle that we all need to, come to, fight together. And inshallah, and many people in this, when they're listening to this interview, they might think that, AI itself, many of the big servers that we have actually are responsible for generating a lot of heat for the world. So how are we on one end saying that AI will fight this global menace, while on the other end, the AI servers themselves or the HPCs themselves are responsible for, a lot of global warming. So the world is already arriving at solutions like that. Of course, when the technology arrives anew in the world. So a lot of things in these are not, friendly for the environment. For example, the traditional vehicles, which, for example, used to have emissions and stuff. With time, more technologies have been invented which have reduced emissions. Similarly, electric cars have been invented. So AI will also evolve with time. So have you heard, for example, about dielectric fluids?
Yeah.
So dielectric fluids is one sort of technology which is a revolution in mechanical engineering or the heat transfer fields, which is dedicated for this kind of servers. Right? How to cool the servers more effectively, how to submerge them in water with, less, you could say, amount of preparation required, or, with less isolation from the liquid required and stuff. So similarly, many people are taking data centers and HPCs to the space now, so that any heat radiation that takes place will go into space, right? So a lot of these new innovations will come as time progresses. But the important thing is that if we are to really tackle the global warming problem or the climate change problem, we need to really put our mind to this, and we have to have a commitment to actually, implement the predictions which are the output of AI. For example, not doing greenwashing, what we need to do is to really identify what is the environmental cost that goes into development or production of certain products, for example. And that cost has to be reflected as money in the cost of those products. The estimate of this could again be done through AI, right? Similarly, another solution that we have which can assist in this kind of things is that, for example, we have plant incubators, which can help you identify which plant is more appropriate to be planted in which scenario, which has undergone a global warming, right? For example, the climate in Saudi Arabia and UAE, a lot of countries is changing. So what sort of plants they need to plant, they can test, they can virtually create, simulate, emulate that environment which they have right now. And based on that, try and test which plant will fare better in which environment, right? So a lot of small solutions like this will integrate into that big battle. And I think, as I said in the beginning of this answer, that we need to come together in projects like creating digital twin of the earth, for instance. And no single entity, no matter how big or small, is capable of getting all the kind of information required in particular, for instance, let alone crunch it, process it, and get some output out of it. So this is a problem that the world needs to take on together, and countries need to align in order to fight this menace properly.
That's a nice. Where you see Pakistan in terms of AI, you can say for the next 10 years?
I think that Pakistan has a lot of potential. And what I have seen in my journey with because as you know, it's a very well-known fact that Pakistan doesn't have that level of compute as you will find in some of the advanced countries in the world. But you see, AI is not just dependent on the compute, unlike what a lot of people think.
Yeah.
It also depends upon the people behind the keyboard, the people who actually write the code, how efficiently they do it, how they are able to gather and crunch the data, how they are able to make data sets and stuff like that. For example, some of the solutions for safe cities that we have at NCAI have data sets for stray dogs. They have data sets for animal carts. They have data sets for local vehicles. Many of them are self-learning. So this kind of systems are not there in the mainstream systems being sold by a lot of advanced countries. So majority of the world is not like California or like New York or like Shanghai or like Beijing, right? Yeah. Majority of the world is like us. They do have the problem of stray dogs running around, right? Yeah. So our systems are more applicable when it comes to implementation in a greater part of the world. So I think that definitely there is a business segment which we can target, and even international companies from these advanced countries can benefit from teaming up with people like us. And I think that this is the most important point, that the world is now a global village. Rather than just thinking of competing, if we want to progress in the world, we need to team up. Right? So Pakistan has to find a place in the ecosystem. US and Chinese economies in a lot of ways are interlinked with each other. It's not just blind competition. Both are dependent upon each other. Right? Yeah. Similarly, a lot of other people in the world, a lot of other economies of the world are also, like, one country is producing oil, another country is consuming oil, right? So the country that is consuming oil is important for the country that is producing oil because that is their customer. So we live in a global village, and we must think, our strategies as such.
That's so nice. As you mentioned about the smart cities projects you have implemented all over the Pakistan, we also talk about AI for infrastructure all the time. So where do you see like how we can implement AI in developing such smart cities with that combine with all the sustainable goals? Where do you see Pakistan?
I think that, smart cities and now super smart cities, which the world is introducing, a lot of these are focused towards smart data management. So safe city is one thing, and smart city is on top of it, as you mentioned. So for the viewers who may not understand, in smart city, you actually talk about resource management as well. So for example, the water being wasted, for instance, in a city, or the water supply being optimal can have huge impacts in their, you could say, way of living and how convenient they live. I'll just give you a small example. So in Islamabad, for instance, which is one of the most advanced cities in Pakistan, I think if you look at Islamabad, so the system for water supply that you have, a lot of people actually, they travel to the particular valves and then manually open and close the valves, and they have a very rough idea about what the water pressure is, at the back. And this is why the water supply to various houses is not really controlled. Right? It is a rough estimate which people have in their mind. There's nothing empirical about it or calculated about it. This is a place where we can apply science, where we can apply AI for the initial laying of the pipes, the angles, the slant at which it must be done, how much digging has to be done where. It has to be done, after creating a digital twin of that area, the profile from the satellite, getting the profile of how the pipe needs to be laid down, and then appropriate management of the water pressure through sensors integrated into the real system, right? So this is one example of one system that could come in as a smart city. So many people in Pakistan might think that maybe it's not a requirement for Pakistan, or maybe it sounds too advanced. But the thing is that, don't Pakistani people want to have a good life? That's what this is, basically inspired for, actually. That once you put in technology, in place for your daily use, this basically improves your quality of life. And the first time that I stepped, to Barcelona Mobile World Congress, where I presented some of my solutions, I used to have a, company working in this direction, and, I brought, some IoT and other solutions along with my team and my students. We went there to present. And one of the first things that I noticed is that, the difference in approach when you go to the developed world, particularly when you go to Europe, when you go to America, for them, technology is a way to improve their life. A new technology is invented, they pounce on it. They try to get it as soon as possible. They try to integrate it into their systems. They try to implement it in their lives. Whereas us, on the other hand, we keep thinking about whether it is required or not, whether it will be necessary or not. We, keep procrastinating about why to adopt or not adopt, or what implications it will have. The result is that, for example, when mobile phones are becoming common all over the world, we didn't rush to develop any of the mobile phone models by ourselves. Before Samsung, mobile phones came into the market, was Samsung a big mobile phone producer? No. Around the world? A lot of other countries are not like that, but they took advantage of the new tech revolution that was coming around, and they pounced on it to, make their space in it. Now in Pakistan, we have another chance, because the AI revolution is yet there, and a lot of things are progressing. So we need to find our own way, and we need to have the will, some sort of a way in which, through a policy, for example, like China has done, to set KPIs for the ministries, that they must adopt AI by so and so year, they have to adopt this target. So that kind of target on the application side have to be there. In terms of technology development, you are there, we are there, a lot of entities are there who can together work on this. There are international partners that we can bring in, equipment can be brought in, a lot of software algorithms can be written. These solutions that are developed as a result of it can be exported to other countries as well once the technology is developed, and this will earn money for Pakistan. But the first thing that is required is the will and some sort of KPIs, some sort of, rules that have to be set in place by each ministry to upgrade the most essential systems in their own ecosystem.
That's a very good point. As you're from academia and in touch with industry as well, and you're a part of policy making as well, what are your suggestions for startup like AI Geo Navigators, how they can collaborate with academia in research so they can find some common ground between them?
I think that startups, are a new dimension. And you see that even companies like Amazon, who are restructuring themselves, they take inspiration from startups, right? Big companies who are actually already giants, they're already in the top 10 in the world, but they want to have a lean structure of working like startups have, because startups have agility. This is the best thing about startups. So in Pakistan, with startups, I think the first thing is that until bootstrapping, a lot of things are simple. But when it comes to scaling, when you want to have offices in Islamabad, Lahore, Peshawar, and Karachi, you want to have a big distribution network. Yeah. So the system of risk capital is not there. That risk capital system has to be introduced, just like the US has done. The risk capital system is the reason why US has been able to implement and establish something like the Silicon Valley. Right? So we need to learn from such established models which are already there. I think that a lot of people have tried that, and there are contributions. Our IT minister right now is making a lot of good efforts in this direction as well. Previously also, when Arusha Rahman was Minister of IT, at that time also when NICs were started by the Ministry of IT, that was a big initiative as well. Others have tried. Umar Saif is a big name who actually, started with the Arfa Karim Tower, and a lot of, startup in Idea Crore Ka, one of the programs that he used to lead as well on Neo TV, and a number of other initiatives of that sort that came out. But you see, just pitches, presentations, they are very fine. But the real thing is to get the investors and the venture capitalists behind it, right? Who actually put their money where their mouth is, and get things rolling, get systems rolling, invest in them, so that systems developed by you guys, by the startups, can scale. Right? Yeah. So one thing we can do is that, for example, as a national center, we are the backbone of artificial intelligence of the country. We are not somebody working in a silo that we keep developing things individually. In fact, National Center is distributed among different universities. It's not just in NUST. I am in NUST, I am leading the headquarter, but there are other setups in Islamabad, Lahore, Peshawar, Karachi, in UITs, in UIT Lahore, in UIT Peshawar, in NAD Karachi, in Punjab University, in ComStats University in Islamabad. Then there are some smaller setups, some projects that we have funded for FAST, Islamabad, Lahore, Karachi campuses, for NUMS, for example, for other PF for instance, Faiz Zulfikar Ali Bhutto Medical University, for instance. So we have funded all of them for some sort of research with industry, coming in with their own share of funding to develop joint products. We've spun off around 38 spin-off companies from the National Center. So basically, this kind of network of National Center of Artificial Intelligence is meant to boost the research and meant to aid the whole ecosystem to progress. It's not an institution working in the silo. And another thing that we've created an example is that, working like a startup, like ourselves as well, we have actually achieved self-sustainability, which means that we have actually gone off the government recurring funding. We didn't draw actually any recurring funding from the development budget straight away. The PC1 had demanded that we do self-sustainability, and we have achieved that, right? So this is an example for startups as well. So two things that we can do. One, we can integrate startups into implementation of solutions. If startups like AI Geo Navigators, who have good implementations of various AI algorithms, you could take parts of the product that is being developed, and we could take another part, somebody else could take a third part, and together we could team up to develop solutions for Pakistan. It's not about isolating things and developing separately, it's about teamwork. And as you might remember in one of the earlier questions as well, I was mentioning that the world is a global village. We need to work together. So world is a big thing. First, we need to work together within Pakistan, right? And the second thing is that, startups could be, for example, benefiting from the lean model which we have developed, through which we have already achieved self-sustainability, and how we have been able to land big business, deliver in time. So a lot of training of this sort we could impart to the startups. So that's another benefit we can, give to the startups.
That's so nice. As you can say that currently engaging with students all the time. What are your suggestions for the guys and the students who are just getting to know what's an AI is?
I think that first of all, the AI evolution around the world and the new revolution that is coming around, the advent of generative AI, that agentic AI, and the way things are progressing, they have made one thing very clear, that the progression of technology, the way technology is evolving, the way new stuff is being developed in the world, it is going at such a fast pace that every 2 to 3 years technology changes. The frontier of technology is completely somewhere else. So all people who actually work in AI have to remember one thing, that they have to continuously make themselves uncomfortable, and they have to leave their comfort zone and keep exploring new stuff that is being developed. We have to remain on the cutting edge of the technology in terms of learning new stuff, not just from online, but keeping a close eye on the international product expos like the Mobile World Congress, like, the tech summits, the web summits, for example, like Leap, like GITEX. We need to keep learning about new technologies that the world companies are presenting. Then keep an eye on the research, because in a knowledge-based economy, as it is seen in US and other countries as well, many of the professors are actually picked up by companies to lead their setups, because in a knowledge-based economy depends upon the knowledge, and knowledge is with the universities most of the time, right? So to get that knowledge from there and go through the technology readiness levels, right from level 1 to level 9, you actually need people with knowledge in the mix. This is why companies like the Toyota Research Institute, TRI, have James Kufner, professor from Carnegie Mellon University, as their CEO. This is why Boston Dynamics is led by the MIT professor Mark Rabert, right? So we have to follow the similar model of empowering our faculty from the universities and integrating them with the people in the industry, so that together they can generate output. If we keep working in silos, this will neither work for the industry nor work for the faculty. So in the National Center of Artificial Intelligence, we are placed quite differently, because what we are is something between the two. The National Center of AI is inside the university, but our staff mostly is not just students. We have full-time employees that we hire on salary based on all the research and all the products that we are developing, right? So we are essentially like a company, but working inside a university with, unbeatable access to knowledge. and professors who have graduated from the topmost universities of the world, similar to what people like Google and others are hiring. So from the same universities, people in our national center have also graduated. And then because the government has mandated us to be the backbone of AI in Pakistan, and we integrate with all the AI entities, the startups, the companies, we assist the Ministry of IT, we assist the Ministry of Planning, we assist HEC, we assist the Ministry of Science, we help make policy for various institutes as well, not just in Pakistan, but also, like bilateral and multilateral agreements that are reached in various places, sometimes collaboration with the key offices in Saudi Arabia, with UAE, with the Middle East, with other European countries, for instance, with China, for instance, with America, for instance. So for this, actually, I think that we have a big responsibility, and we are trying our best to actually drive the ecosystem forward so that we can reap the maximum benefits for Pakistan.
That's so nice. As quantum computing is in the town, what are your views on it? Like the computational power is switching from binary to qubits, like Michikaku explains this way. What are your views on quantum computing?
I think quantum will be a very big ripple in the, rather a tsunami in the computing world when it comes out finally. So right now, of course, we have to look at, for example, it's not easy to maintain minus 373 degrees centigrade for, running the quantum computer, and it's very resource intensive. So while I don't see that, quantum would be, physically deployed in the field right now, but in research, it's very important right now. When it comes out in the field, so remember that quantum computers are a new type of hardware. On this new type of hardware, also AI will be running.
Yeah.
Right? So quantum computer will actually, you could say, supplement the level which AI can reach and the speeds at which it can process. And you see that even right now, other than quantum, a lot of new technologies are coming. For example, there used to be CPUs, then people saw the GPUs coming in, then LPUs and many other new technologies are coming out right now. And this is why, the hardware will keep evolving. Whenever there is demand from you could say the industry to have AI product deployment, that's where the world puts in their money. And hardware companies like NVIDIA, who are developing and designing a lot of this kind of stuff, TSMC and others who are developing this kind of solutions, they will keep inventing new kind of chips, and it will take some time until quantum comes around. But we don't have to wait for quantum. We have to adapt ourselves to technology at every level. And this is possible by only one way. For example, I'll give you the challenge. For instance, today you buy GPUs, you buy H200s, you put them in place and things keep working. 5 years from now, the technology becomes obsolete.
Yeah.
So you have to invest all the way over again. Who do you sell the old GPUs to? Or do you supplement them with new ones? How frequently do you upgrade? The only way in which that could make a sense as an investment is that if you have enough solutions to deploy in the field, and if there is integration of AI in the market and the organizations implementing AI have some economic benefit coming out of it. So we have to close the loop. It's not just one way that we have to invest. We have also got to think about the outcome that will come from this investment, right? And this is why, number one, we need to set up those KPIs for Pakistan, how people need to implement, what targets are there, which field implement, if we implement AI in that area, will reap financial outcomes for Pakistan. Those studies have to be there. They have to come out. We've made some effort for that as part of the National AI Task Force working with the MOPDSI. So dividing into 12 priority areas, we have actually worked out the mathematics. So that, for example, if you invest in this area, what kind of project will result in which kind of outcome based on what it has done for other countries around in the world, right? So based on that statistical data, we have created those estimates, right? And based on Pakistan's GDP ratio in each of the particular domains. But more, solid research could also be done. Further in this, a lot of papers could come out, which could give us some idea about, for example, how to set KPIs for which field exactly, in what sense, right?
Yeah.
So that those projections could be turned into a reality. The projections are there. But to actually turn them into reality, we need to see what investment is really available. Right now, the investment, it is pretty solid research that tells you that, you will invest this much, you reap this much output. But do we have that investment? And how do we set national priorities? How will that affect the people of Pakistan, other than just the economic projections?
That's so nice. Developed countries are working in AI for agriculture. Do you think Pakistan will be able to adapt that?
Why not? Pakistan is an agricultural economy. And I think our farmers and our agricultural, workforce actually needs to reap benefits of AI. So for this, I think that it's a two-pronged approach. One is that they need to have a real skill training in AI as well. So government needs to take initiatives, and people like AI Geo Navigators and NCAI could team up. And a lot of other entities I know who are working in agriculture. In Pakistan also, we are also working on one of the projects with some of the progressive farmers and the University of Agriculture. We are working together to develop a dashboard with AI integrated and app-based solutions which integrate satellite data, ground data, and a lot of other information to give the right advices to the farmers, right? So that they could improve their overall agricultural produce. So I think that the same consortium-like models are the ideal way in which we could actually help the farmers as well. And you see, agriculture is a very big domain. There's so many different crops, so many different areas, so many different climates to deal with, and there is some work for this for everybody from the tech side to do.
What are your views on AI in healthcare? Like, there's a use case study going on. Like, if you want to find the confusion matrix, if there is a false positive, it will be, you can say that, very hard for the saving human lives, because it involves human lives. So we must be, you can say that there should be ethical values for that. How do you see this?
I think that the first thing people need to know about is, and I think most of the people probably already know it, is that there are false positives in human diagnosis as well.
Yeah.
Right? So every diagnosis made by the human or every real-time decision made in the field is not perfect, right? But we don't stop human doctors from practicing, do we?
No.
Right? So if we benchmark, there was recently a study in 2025 which was published in New York Times as well. It was covered by New York Times, published in one of the journals before that, which actually took the, for example, medical cases which are not very clear in one direction of diagnosis, right? So differential diagnosis cases in which you, for example, one thing you see, one radiograph you see could have one kind of outcome or the other kind of outcome. So the result that they reported had only 74% accuracy when only done by the humans. As opposed to that, when they gave the same results to the large language model, ChatGPT, right, which is working on that. So of course, they have to be in the area of strength which ChatGPT was already strong in. So when they gave it to ChatGPT was 90% accurate. So is it fair to blame AI for the false positives where more false positives are there for when the humans are practicing?
Yeah.
So why don't we put it to a test? For example, at the National Center of AI, we have a solution called the Digital Human Project. Digital Human Project actually integrates a lot of AI developments which are being done in our labs, for example, in ComSats, for example, in Lahore, example in Karachi, and a lot of development in the System Integration Lab at the National Center of AI headquarters in Islamabad at NUST. So what this does is that integrates solutions for brain tumor diagnosis, pulmonary conditions, retina scans, OCT scans, fundus images, for instance, your, thalassemia diagnosis, for example, your vascular surgery diagnosis, for instance, many others like optical cases, neurological diseases, stress, for example, ECG, for instance. So we have all of these solutions integrated into one window in which we have our own DICOM viewers as well. There are some specialized things that these DICOM viewers have. One thing, for example, that if you want to annotate local data for local studies, it has specialized features for that because they have whole AI dashboards different from the conventional DICOM viewers which other hospitals have. Also, we have another very useful tool which is the differential diagnosis. What it does is that it brings benchmark results which are already tagged by international experts in healthcare as the absolute truth. And doctors can see how accurate they really are and compare their own skills with AI. See if AI works better or doctors work better, right? And then we can make an informed decision about where to implement AI. Just to add something that healthcare and law are two of the fields which are conceived as the highest impact areas with artificial intelligence around the world because the benefits that these fields can possibly receive from AI are profound. To put it in sense, for example, other than the data that I have given you, that for example, one doctor who's practicing in the field may have seen, for example, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 cases. How many cases could he come across? And how many types of cases could he come across? AI, as opposed to that, would learn on millions and millions of cases, where it would crunch through huge data sets to, be able to draw conclusions. At the same time, the purpose of AI is not to replace the doctor. AI is an assistant on the doctor's table, right? Just the same way as a radiograph is, right? So previously, people said that doctors could, for example, just hold your pulse a little bit, just sense your pulse and tell you a lot about diseases. But now doctors need a lot of tests. So doctors of the future will need an additional test through AI. So the judgment will still be of the doctor, but the AI will be assisting the doctor in terms of the outcome. To prove this point, let me share this, that for example, even if ChatGPT was 90% accurate, is 90% enough?
No.
What do we do about the 10 false positive? If they result in loss of life, then what? So what we need to do is to find a way to train humans to use AI effectively. The human doctors should be trained to use AI effectively. So here's again, we roll back to the same point that we need to set targets. Pakistan's PMDC needs to step up. They need to set targets that, for example, AI training has to be formally introduced. It has to be integrated into the MBBS teaching. We have already developed a curriculum for it and shared with several medical institutions, including the NUST Healthcare School, which have prescribed courses of AI, at least one course in a year that the students could learn. So with this 4 or 5 courses, at least they'll get some idea about what they're headed to, and when they go into the field, what kind of AI solutions they'll find in the hospital. So I think that this kind of solutions have to be there. And also we have a dedicated training called AI MD, in which medical doctors can learn how to first of all use AI tools effectively, how to use them in their own decision making for diagnosis, and how to develop their own data sets and do learning based on their own data, so that they can have favorable outcomes. So I welcome anybody who, for example, who want to see this kind of solutions to visit us at the National Center of AI in Islamabad at NUST and have first-hand interaction with these solutions and see what kind of stuff is out there.
That's I want to ask, like, as a layman, how we can encourage people to use AI for their own benefit, not like Google, as a lot of people in Pakistan use ChatGPT as a search engine. How can we encourage them about it?
If you look at the top 5 searches, for instance, in 2024 in Pakistan, which are the Google searches and the matrix provided by Google. So top 5 searches have 3 cases where AI is directly being searched by the people. So, number 1 was actually ChatGPT, number 2 was Bing Image Creator, and number 5 was Gemini. Right? So people in Pakistan, not just the professionals, but overall internet users are going to AI solutions. But the real challenge is that, are these solutions basically we are looking at the West produced solutions, not our own produced solutions. So where do we get into the creator end of the technology? So at the National Center of AI and a lot of other startups, we have already demonstrated AI product development in Pakistan, their integration into Pakistan. And now the need of the hour is that we need to have integrated solutions. For instance, how will people get to search something which is related to AI, which is locally made in Pakistan? Not necessarily by creating an alternate ChatGPT, but through, for example, creating AI-based solutions for Pakistan, for example, for beneficiary income support program, for example, for other portals that people frequently ask, for banking networks, for example, for other predictions of the stock market, for investments, for instance. So a lot of local solutions with AI implementation have to be there in the market, which people could go to. I'll give you another idea. For example, for law, we have an app which is initially developed with the Judicial Automation Committee with the Supreme Court of Pakistan. And what this does is that, when you encounter a legal problem, you go to it, you just write down the issue that you faced, and it goes through the series of previous cases and the law. It has training of both, and it comes up with, the likely judgment, the reason why this is the likely judgment, the reference cases, as well as the, articles of law which are relevant. So does this really leave any need for people to go to the, just to consult the lawyer, or you can just open your phone and, search on that? This kind of solutions could be locally implemented, but we need investors to step up and say that, for example, we want to do business in this AI-based solution. If they do it, this is definitely a low-hanging fruit with which a lot of people could make very good money. But a lot of these things cannot all be done by the government, right? Supreme Court of Pakistan, in their recently the ethics that they have developed, so we were also a part of this along with Ministry of IT. So they have written in their ethical procedures that if a local solution is available, they'll prefer it for use of access to the law or searching through the legal books, for instance. But somebody has to put this out there in the field. What we can do is develop it technically, but the business aspect, the financial aspect, the investment aspect has to be done by somebody out there who's interested in this business, and they invest in it so that we develop the tech solution and work B2B with them.
At AI Geo Navigators, we are developing AI-driven solutions. What advice would you give to us about these solutions we are trying to build?
I think that if you want to become big in the world and you want to integrate these AI solutions into the world's biggest technologies, what you need to do is to think about becoming a part of the ecosystem. Think about, for example, when you look at the solutions, you have to start from the market first. You have to look at which people are out there for which the technology may be useful. Number two, don't overdevelop the solution. When you take it to the market, develop a good solution which is provable, which is implemented in a solid way that when people see, they rely on the solution. It should be a reliable solution. But remember that the customer's need may many times be different from what you are developing from scratch. And when the customer gives you feedback, you have to be ready to adapt to it, right? So this is the two important things. That first, you have to look at the market sensitivity, at what the market needs right now, right? Number two, when you go to the market, a lot of things that you anticipated might be different from what the user requires, right? So you have to be able to adapt your solutions. Your solutions have to be, if they're indigenous and if you have documented them properly, you'll be able to mold them to the user's requirements so that you can fit in into their ecosystem where it actually gives benefit to them. So remember, nobody will adopt AI just for the sake of adoption of AI. When we say set KPIs for the ministries, when we say set KPIs for organizations, it doesn't mean just put in investment just for fashion. What it means is that put KPIs in the sense that what systems, if automated, will reap more benefits for Pakistan. Everything has to be based upon economics, right? So that's what we need to focus on. We need to move with solid business plans. So AI Geo Navigators and any other startups out there that are listening, they have to work with a solid market research and keep that market research in reference when they're developing products. Many times, because our ecosystems are very much dependent, dominated by tech people, right? So what happens is that we are in love with tech. We have two main problems. One is that we spiral off somewhere in the middle to develop just complex solutions and more complex solutions without regard to what is really needed in the market. And the second problem that our tech community sometimes has is that, when we make a solution, we are never satisfied with its performance. We keep thinking that it needs to become more better. And then, when it's really perfect, we'll put it out there in the market, which actually doesn't happen. Even when you put out, for example, sometimes there are recalls in cars, sometimes that doesn't mean that you put out a system that is not reliable. But then you must set a benchmark that at what level will you showcase the solution to the people. Remember that the user will most likely ask you for customization. Yeah. And when they do, you'll have to do that customization. And for that, UAT will have to be done again, right? So leave some room for it and open the solution for people to see if it's not really even for deployment, so that you'll get market sensitivity in advance and do the UAT, the user acceptance testing, somehow in loop with somebody's requirement, so that at the end you can target a business. That's how you actually make a lean business model in which, instead of just a burnout, most of our startups actually end in a burnout, right? That, they keep working, they keep investing. Few of them actually spiral out and, spin off to the Western world. And many of them, just in Pakistan, they don't get to big business. The reason for that is that they are not progressing in harmony with how the market is evolving. So you have to involve market feedback in the process of development of the products. That's, I think, is one of the tips that I can give.
To sum up, where do you see us, AI Geo Navigators, over the next 5 to 10 years?
Being Geo Navigators, I can see you on a lot of satellites. Yeah. And inshallah, I think that I see you doing a lot of good things for Pakistan. And I think that the right geological information and AI-based processing and GIS-based solutions are needed for Pakistan. There is a lot of potential in this. CPEC is developing. Our agriculture fields need this. We have a floods problem in Pakistan. Climate change is hitting us pretty badly. So I think that there's a lot of business out there in the market. And let me encourage the people who use this kind of products, who need this kind of solutions, to reach out to AI Geo Navigators. And inshallah, if you need any support from our side, from NCAI side, from the Pakistan's AI diaspora overall, we would love to help you out directly, or we would love to connect you with possible customers, partners, other startup spin-offs, or with business entities who could team up with the AI Geo Navigators to put your solutions out there in the field.
Thank you, Dr. Yasir, for sharing your experiences and insights. Your vision for AI and mentorship is truly inspiring. To our listeners, stay tuned and do follow us. Thank you so much.